Hello and welcome to my shop tour. I have some things to show you. Try to show some unique solutions that I found while putting this shop together. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. So my shop is in a two-car garage, and living in Minnesota, it's necessary to park the cars in the garage, and my wife doesn't really want a whole bunch of woodworking stuff on her side of the garage. So there's domestic concessions to work around and all sorts of challenges. So before we get into the shop tour, just wanted to show an interesting solution that I came up with in order to store the bicycles. The only other alternative would have been to have the bikes in the space that I wanted my tools to occupy. It would have severely limited the amount of space that I had. So I have come up with this solution to store the bikes up in the rafters of the garage. It's on a quadruple reduction pulley system that lifts them up into the rafters. You can, I'm not going to take it down all the way, but slip the hook off, lift the bike off, do your bike ride, put it back together. It really doesn't take that long to store it, and they're completely out of the way. So it's all custom made. I'm not sure that you could buy something equivalent. I think something this specific would have to be a custom deal, but it's worked out very well. So there you go, lots more space available because the bikes are out of the way. So next, just a quick high-level walkthrough. My whole strategy here was to try to get as many tools and capabilities into this space as possible without using mobile bases, because if you don't need them and can engineer around them, that's ideal. And also without occupying the space it's strictly necessary to keep your wife happy and be able to park both cars into the garage. So right here we have the table saw. This is out as far as possible and over as far as possible in these two directions, so as to not crowd my wife's side of the garage and allow me to park the car and just barely miss the side of this table saw. And I've got the router in the wing of the table saw. This really saves a lot of space. You use one fence. It's simple. A great solution, not unique obviously, but it's worked out very well for me. Then stepping back, I have this island here, a whole bunch of tools. The joiner, bandsaw, spindle sander, homemade or shop-made disc sander, planer here on the back side, and the drill press. All of these tools have lots of room on either side for long pieces. They're not in each other's way. Nothing needs to be moved around except this drill press table. I kind of slide back and forth depending on if I'm using the bandsaw, I'll push it over here. If I'm using the planer, I can move it over here, although that's not strictly necessary. But you get the idea. No moving stuff around. Everything is set up to where you have just enough space to do what you need to do, but no more. Workbench, I made this a little larger than I should have. It's wider and longer than it really strictly needs to be, and although I have access to all four sides, which is really nice, it's a little bit crowded. At some point I'll probably remake it, but it's not that big a deal. And there's other shop projects I'll want to get to first. Then back here, you can kind of, probably hard to see from there, but this is the 3-tool station that I showed in my first YouTube video, where I have the drum sander, the hollow chisel mortiser, and the miter saw all on one table, sharing space. They all have lots of room. Again, no moving things around to set any of these tools up. The miter saw and the hollow chisel mortiser share the same fence, and it's all set up right where I need it. The only thing with large pieces, you'd have to move the drum up to make room for them if you're cutting them on the miter saw or the mortiser, which is minimally inconvenient. Nothing's perfect, but it's a pretty good setup. And then back in this corner, I have a lathe and scroll saw right here. So that's all the tools, and it's hard to see from there. I'll take the camera in and get some better shots, but that's the general idea. Lots of tools, no mobile bases, park the cars, and do all that in an extra deep 2-car garage. Alright, so the walking tour. Again, this is the island. Bandsaw has just enough space to step up and work, especially if we go ahead and move the drill press table out of the way, which is really easy. Nice setup. The joiner sitting right there works well too. It does have a mobile base, so I can pull it out of the way when I'm doing a blade change, but I have my shop set up, so that's not necessary very often. Quick safety tip here. I like to take the tension off of the blade, but there's some risk that you won't get the tension back on and just turn it on. So what I do is when it's loosened, I have this block sitting right here, and when I go to tighten it, I simply slip that on here, tighten it up, and then you're good to go. And it's right there. So when you take the tension off, you're looking right at this safety thing, and it's kind of in your way and very easy to not forget to toss it right there so that you know that the tension is off and you don't start it up and have a safety issue. Over here is the spindle sander and disc sander, homemade disc sander that I built kind of loosely off plans or designed from John Heiss. The sanding cabinet right now, I don't like building drawers. They're not a lot of fun, so everything's just kind of thrown in there, and I haven't got around to building drawers. Over here on the table saw again, this is a better shot of the router and bit storage down here. I built one of the two drawers on this one, so a little bit more progress, but at some point I just need to bite the bullet and start building some drawers. Better shot of the bench. Right now all this sharpening and metal cutting and metal grinding and metal vise junk is under here. My plan is to use this space that's open right here to have a sharpening station and get some of that permanently mounted. That'll be nice to get it out from underneath the bench. Right here is my Hegner scroll saw. I spent a lot on this scroll saw, and I justified it based on its ability to cut fairly thick wood for a scroll saw. And that allows me to have the bandsaw set up with a large blade for resawing, and have the scroll saw serve kind of a dual purpose of what some people have a secondary bandsaw for cutting curves and things. It's a little slower, but not too bad. For my purposes, it does most of the curve cutting work that I'd want a second bandsaw for and saves all that space. I have some thoughts to put it into this center island as well and mount it over the planer. There's really nothing that it would be in the way of. That's just kind of dead space above the planer. It's a 600-pound tool, and there ought to be some way to get the vibration dampening as adequate as the vibration dampening base from Hegner, although they're skeptical. We'll see how that goes. I might try to do that in the near future, get some vibration dampening feet and put something together. So again, here on my 3-tool workstation, better shot over here. From my first video with the hollow chisel mortiser on that base that holds the workpiece stationary and actually moves the mortiser. You can see that on my other video. That's worked real well. I've done one project with it so far, which I'll show in a second. It's almost finished. So I'm real happy with that. There's some things I do differently, but by and large, it worked out well. And then tucked back here is my lathe. Haven't really used it a lot for anything other than tool handles at this point, but I intend to do some more turning in the future. I don't think I'll ever be a wood turner, but I'd like to be competent enough that I can add some turn pieces to projects in the future. So here's an example of a project that I'm just wrapping up. This is the footboard and headboard for the bed frame that is going to go in our master bedroom. I used the hollow chisel mortiser for the mortises, and that worked real well. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a whole lot more I want to do to this shop, but if I waited till I had it all done before shooting a video like this, I probably would never do it. So it's a work in progress, probably always will be. I'd like to do a plumbed in dust collection so I'm not wheeling the portable unit around. I need drill bit storage and chisel storage for the lathe and a whole number of other shop projects. I kind of try to go back and forth between real projects and shop projects. Too much of either one is a problem for me. So Anyway, in the future I'd like to get some build videos going, but I'm finding that awfully difficult. For any of you who enjoy build videos, you should go ahead and try to make one, because it will make you appreciate the folks that put them together all the more. I just have a rhythm in the shop with my headphones in, just thinking about the project and the complexity of trying to get all the shots right and really tell the story as you go is a challenge. But I'd like to get better at it. I think that participating in this community would be a good thing to give back. I've learned a whole lot from YouTube videos, and would like to share some of the things I'm doing. So hope you enjoyed, and I hope to get some more interesting videos going here in the future.